All right, good morning, party people. It is December 4th on Monday. So today we are back in the Old Testament. Yesterday we were in with Jesus, and so today we are our daily reading is going to be Leviticus chapters 5 and 6, 2nd Chronicles 31-32, Revelations 21-22, Psalms 120 to 124, and then we started back over Proverbs chapter 1. Okay, so we're back with the Kings. So those of you that have not been following along, we've been following in the Old Testament section. We've been following the 1st and 2nd Chronicles, which was the establishment of the nation under. Let me just show you a little bit of a history. But if you have not seen the other videos, I would go back because they're pretty amazing. The history's awesome. So we've been following the lineage of David, right, in 2nd Chronicles, Saul, David, Solomon, and then this is the northern kingdom who broke away and are not following God. And then we've got the southern kingdom, which is the lineage of Solomon. And we're all the way down here with good King Hezekiah. He's got a heart by him because he's awesome. And also in these, on the northern kingdom in the book of Chronicles, all the ones with parentheses are not even mentioned. The purpose of the book of Chronicles was to, 1st and 2nd Chronicles was to encourage the people that were going back from Babylonian captivity by Ezra. So this is where we are here. So let me see here. So here's the fall of the northern kingdom, southern kingdom, also known as Judah. These guys were also known as the northern kingdom as Israel. So we are here with good King Hezekiah. And you see a lot of stuff going on between him and Isaiah. So when in our study of the book of Isaiah, it just so happens we're in Isaiah as well for the prophetic books. We've already seen Isaiah confront Hezekiah about his how he needs to stand fast and rely on the Lord for a battle that was upcoming that we had not addressed yet. But now we're going to see it happen here in 2nd Chronicles. So that was in, I think, our last study of Isaiah. So now we're in 2nd Chronicles. Chapter 31-32, we had just finished the last time we were with Hezekiah. We saw that his father had been an evil, horrible king, King Ahaz, and he had desecrated the temple, brought in false worship in the temple, in the Holy of Holies. He had desecrated that. So when Hezekiah took over, he immediately began to clean everything up, reestablish the service of the Lord, and honor God. And so it's been awesome. So the last two chapters we read in 29-30 was him just getting everything ready and then them celebrating the Passover. And it mentioned that there had not been a Passover like that celebrated since the time of Solomon. He had sent runners to the northern kingdom saying, come to us, come back to Jerusalem, come back to God and worship God with us for the Passover. And so it had been awesome. There was a whole bunch of people that came down and it had been a beautiful feast. And so it was a wonderful beginning to his reign. So now we see in chapter 31, now when all this was finished, all Israel who were present went out to the cities of Judah and broke the sacred pillars in pieces, cut down the wooden images, and threw down the high places in the altars from all Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh, until they had utterly destroyed them all. Then all the children of Israel returned to their own cities, every man to his possession. So they're just continuing. So even during the time of the Passover, when they were celebrating, there were still altars. You know, there was so much mess from Ahaz that they had not even had a chance to clean it all up yet. So you can see here at the beginning of chapter 31, we're seeing that the people that had come down from the northern kingdom participated with the people in the southern kingdom in getting rid of those altars. So verse 2 says, and Hezekiah appointed the divisions of the priests and the Levites according to their divisions, each man according to his service, the priests and the Levites, for burnt offerings and peace offerings, to serve, to give thanks, and to praise in the gates of the camp of the Lord. So this is going back to the Mosaic and Davidic things where there were certain established ways to worship God and certain people who were to do that. And under Ahaz, all of that had been desecrated. He had completely destroyed the temple. There was none of the things that they were supposed to be doing were being done. And so all of the Levitical and Aaronic priesthood had been, they had gone aside to do their own thing. And so there was some notes I wrote about that. Let me see if I can give this to you. It says, all religious personnel had to descend from Levi, but the priests had to trace their genealogy to Aaron. But then there's also, since the time of Solomon, the line of Zadok also played an important role. So if you go back to the story of David and Solomon, you'll see the priest from Zadok really stood with David, stood with Solomon, and so they were elevated to a position of higher authority within the Levitical priesthood. So then it says, the king also appointed a portion for his possessions for the burnt offerings, for the morning and evening burnt offerings, the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths and the new moons and the set feasts, as it is written in the law of the Lord. So, I mean, he's very specific, right? He's not only putting the people into their position, making sure that everyone's doing things according to the way it's supposed to be done, but he's also making sure that his household is doing what they're supposed to be doing as the king, and providing certain things. And it says, as it was written in the law of the Lord. So he's trying to reinstitute all these things, right? So verse 4 says, moreover, he commanded the people who dwelt in Jerusalem to contribute support for the priests and Levites, that they might devote themselves to the law of the Lord. So that's, again, he's making sure they're set up. He's getting himself right. And now he's declaring to the people, now you guys need to do what you're supposed to be doing also to support the priests. As soon as the commandment was circulated, the children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of grain and wine and oil and honey and of all the produce of the field, and they brought it in abundantly, the tithe of everything. And the children of Israel and Judah, who dwelt in the cities of Judah, brought the tithe of oxen and sheep, also the tithe of holy things which were consecrated to the Lord their God, they laid in heaps. So it's talking about all the different from the basically at the Passover was like in the second and third month, and then all the way to the seventh month there's different types of feasts that are happening, all consecrating that time frame, all the ingathering of the food and the produce and the birth of the new babies in their farms, so that they can dedicate their portion to God. And all of this was being done. When it talks about the consecrated things to the Lord, those are usually like weapons or things that are not produce or animals. It's like different things, metals, jewelry, gold, things like that. And then in verse 7 it says, in the third month they began laying them in heaps. And so that's it. And it says, and they finished in the seventh month. So that's the time frame of the ingathering. And when Hezekiah and the leaders came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. So when he says Israel, that's referring to everybody, right? Northern and southern kingdom. Then Hezekiah questioned the priests and Levites concerning the heaps. And Azariah, the chief priest from the house of Zadok, answered him and said, since the people began to bring the offerings into the house of the Lord, we have had enough to eat and have plenty left, for the Lord has blessed his people, and what is left is this great abundance. So the people were doing what they were supposed to be doing. Now Hezekiah commanded them to prepare rooms in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them. Then they faithfully brought in the offerings of the tithes and the dedicated things. Conaniah the Levite had charge of them, and Shimei his brother was the next. Jehiel, Azaziah, Nahath, Asahel, Jeremoth, Jozabad, Eliel, Ishmachiah, Mahath, and Benaiah were overseers under the hand of Conaniah and Shimei his brother, at the commandment of Hezekiah the king and Azariah the ruler of the house of God. Kor, the son of Imnah, the Levite, the keeper of the east gate, was over the freewill offerings to God, to distribute the offerings of the Lord and the most holy things. And under him were Eden, Meniamin, Jeshua, Shemaiah, Amariah, and Shechaniah. There's a lot of ayahs. His faithful assistants in the cities of the priests, to distribute allotments to their brethren by divisions, to the great as well as to the small. So the people that were not right there in the temple area, that lived dispersed throughout the land, the priests, these guys were charged with going ahead and distributing to all of those, to all the distant places, everybody that was supposed to have their portion of the priesthood, which had not been being done, which is why they were, another reason everything had fallen into such disrepair. Verse 16, besides those males from 3 years old and up who were written in the genealogy, they distributed to everyone who entered the house of the Lord his daily portion for the work of his service by his division, and to the priests who were written in the genealogy according to their father's house, and to the Levites from 20 years old and up according to their work by their divisions, and to all who were written in the genealogy, their little ones and their wives and their sons and daughters, the whole company of them, for in their faithfulness they sanctified themselves in holiness. So when it talks about from 3 years old on and up in their genealogy, so again, remember they have to be of a certain tribe and a certain Levitical group to be able to serve. It was very controlled. Oh my gosh, I'm out of time. Okay, number 2 is on the way. We're almost through with the first chapter. Read your Bible. Jesus is coming. Stay tuned for number 2.